All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into some serious tech world drama. We're talking Google versus Microsoft. And yeah, it's way bigger than just like whose search engine is better. This is battles for like total domination
Right.
of the cloud computing market.
And things are getting kind of messy.
Our messy is an understatement. I mean, we're seeing accusations of secret lobbying and like smear campaigns. There are even whispers of a bribe.
A big one.
Yeah, like $500 million. It's wild. So we're going to try to make sense of all of this. We've got some recent articles, one from Engadget and another from the Times of India. And, well, let's just jump right in. Microsoft is straight up accusing Google of running like a shadow campaign to make their Azure cloud service look bad. They're even using the term astroturfing, which I don't know about you, but
Yeah, sounds a little shady.
super shady.
Basically, it's like creating fake grassroots support for a cause. So imagine like a bunch of organizations or even just individuals, and they all seem totally independent, but they're coming out, against Azure saying all this bad stuff.
Right.
But secretly, it's actually Google pulling all the strings.
So it's like they're trying to make it look like everyone's concerned about Azure, but it's really just Google like putting on a show.
Exactly. It's all orchestrated.
That's crazy. So Microsoft is saying Google's trying to trash their reputation.
And make it look like it's coming from, like the public or experts or whatever.
Without anyone knowing it's actually Google behind it all.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the accusation. But what are they actually saying Google did, like specifically?
Well, Microsoft's Deputy General Counsel, Rima Aleli, she wrote this blog post. It's pretty intense, laying out all their claims.
Oh, I saw that. It was making the rounds.
Yeah, and they're saying Google hired this European lobbying firm to create this organization. It looks independent on the surface.
Right.
But its whole purpose is to attack Azure.
Wow.
Yeah, Microsoft thinks Google's trying to create this illusion that there's all this genuine concern about their cloud practices coming from the industry.
When really it's just Google like manipulating things.
Yeah.
And this all comes right after Google filed that antitrust complaint against Microsoft in the EU about how Microsoft licenses Azure. It's like they're both going after each other.
Yeah, it's getting pretty heated.
So we've got these two tech giants just throwing punches, pointing fingers, saying the other one is playing dirty. But like, why? Why is this fight so intense right now?
Well, I think part of it has to do with Google and, where their money's coming from. Their traditional revenue from digital ads, it's not growing as fast anymore.
So they need to find a new, like, cash cow.
Yeah, and cloud computing is looking pretty good right now.
Right. Everyone wants it on the cloud.
And it's already working out for Google. Their cloud business actually became profitable for the first time in 2023.
Oh, wow. So it's serious business for them.
Yeah, and in the first quarter of this year, they made like $900 million profit.
Whoa, 900 million. Okay, so yeah, they're going to fight to protect that.
Oh, absolutely.
But what about Microsoft? What's their take on all this?
They're basically saying Google is feeling the heat. From all those antitrust investigations, I think there are like 24 globally.
Jeez, that's a lot.
So Microsoft thinks Google's trying to deflect.
Make it look like Microsoft's the bad guy.
Exactly. And they're pointing to a specific example. There's this group of European cloud providers, CISPE. They were working on an antitrust settlement with Microsoft.
Okay.
But Microsoft claims that Google tried to sabotage the whole thing.
Really? How?
They're saying Google offered CSPE members $500 million.
Wait, hold on. $500 million.
To reject the settlement and keep fighting Microsoft in court.
Wow, that's a lot of money. So Microsoft's basically saying Google tried to buy their way out of trouble.
Yeah, and undermine Microsoft at the same time.
Okay, so tell me more about this open letter Microsoft published. It sounds like they really went after Google.
They did not hold back. It's basically a list of all their accusations.
And they even compared Google's tactics to some of their past rivalries.
Right, like the Scroogled campaign.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It felt like Google was really trying to publicly shame Microsoft.
Yeah, and Microsoft sees this whole astroturfing thing as the same playbook.
Just the latest chapter in this, long-running feud.
Exactly.
So Microsoft's painting this picture of Google as a company that's getting desperate. And they're willing to use any tactic, even shady ones,
to stay on top.
Wow, this is like a corporate espionage thriller or something. Secret campaigns, hidden agendas, accusations flying everywhere. It's fascinating, but also kind of scary. So Microsoft's made their case. They're clearly not happy. But what are they actually doing about it? Are they just firing back with their own attacks?
Well, actually, they're trying to take a different approach. They want to be seen as like the reasonable ones, the ones who listen to feedback and are willing to change when there are, legitimate concerns. They even gave an example of how they've done this before.
Oh, interesting. What did they do?
Remember when the European Commission was concerned about Microsoft bundling Teams with its productivity suite?
Vaguely. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Well, instead of fighting back, Microsoft actually listened.
Really?
And they made a change. They created versions of their productivity suite, like Word and Excel, without Teams.
Wow, that's a pretty big concession.
And they offered them at a lower price.
So they actually, gave in.
It was a strategic move, for sure. They're trying to show they're not this big, bad corporation.
Right.
They're trying to position themselves as, the good guys.
The ones who play fair.
Exactly.
Which, when you contrast it with how they're portraying Google...
It makes Google look even worse.
Yeah, it's clever. But honestly, this is also complicated. How are we, as just regular people who use technology, supposed to even make sense of this? It's like this giant chess game being played out on a global scale, and we're just the pawns.
It can definitely feel overwhelming, especially when you think about how much power these companies have.
Right. We use their products for everything.
Yeah, communication, entertainment, work, everything.
So what can we even do?
I think the first step is just awareness. Don't just blindly accept everything you read. Be skeptical.
Yeah. Don't just take their word for it.
Exactly. Ask questions. Do your own research.
It's so easy to just believe what these companies tell us. But they have their own agendas.
And they're not always upfront about them.
And with this whole astroturfing thing...
You might see something online that looks like a grassroots campaign.
Right.
But it could be totally orchestrated by one of these companies.
To manipulate public opinion.
It's getting harder to tell what's real.
So critical thinking is key.
Definitely.
We can't just take everything at face value.
Nope.
We have to think for ourselves.
And try to see through the spin.
There's technology is everywhere. But we can't forget that there are people behind it.
And companies and policies.
And we have a responsibility to pay attention to that.
To demand better.
To hold these companies accountable.
Absolutely.
This whole conversation has been a real eye-opener, honestly. I feel like I had no idea about all this drama, all the power struggles happening behind the scenes.
It's a wild world for sure.
But it's important.
And the more we understand about it, the better choices we can make about the technology we use.
Totally agree. So before we wrap up, I have a question for everyone listening. We've heard both sides, the accusations from Microsoft, Google's defense, all of it. But who do you believe?
It's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Both companies have a lot to gain here, and they're both making some pretty serious claims.
It's hard to know what to think.
I think that's part of what makes this so interesting. It's not a clear-cut good guy, bad guy situation. They've both done things that could be seen as, questionable. And of course, they both have their own spin on things.
It's like trying to figure out who started a fight on the playground. Everyone's got a different story.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to look deeper,
To try and see their motivations.
What are they really trying to achieve? And how could all of this affect the cloud and the technology we use every day?
This whole deep dive has really made me think. I feel like I had no idea how much was going on behind the scenes.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's important stuff. The more we understand about how these companies work, the better choices we can make as consumers.
For sure. We need to be informed.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with one last question. We've heard both sides of this story. But regardless of who you believe, what does this whole thing tell us about the future of cloud computing?
Ooh, good question.
Will one company end up dominating the whole market?
Or will we see a more balanced landscape with lots of different players?
Yeah, because the cloud is only going to become more important, right?
Absolutely. It's already central to our lives. And whoever controls it, well, they have a lot of power.
This has been an incredible deep dive. Corporate intrigue, ethical dilemmas, you name it.
It has been a wild ride.
I feel like I just got a crash course in big tech politics.
It's been a pleasure talking about all this with you.
Likewise.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to keep digging into this topic and form their own conclusions.
Because this is just the beginning, right?
This rivalry isn't going away anytime soon.
So stay curious, everyone, and keep asking those tough questions. Until next time, happy diving.
Yeah, huge implications.
And it makes you wonder, is this kind of like corporate maneuvering? Is this the future of how these big tech companies are going to compete?
It's hard to say for sure, But it definitely raises some questions about like the ethics of it all.
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Right, like what tactics are acceptable and what crosses the line.
Yeah, and I think it also highlights the need for like more transparency from these companies.
That's absolutely.
So that we as users can make more informed decisions.
About what we support, what we use.
Exactly. Okay, well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. This has been a really in-depth look at this whole rivalry.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But it's important stuff. And hopefully, everyone listening feels a little more informed about the forces at play in the tech world.
And maybe a little more empowered to ask questions.
Yeah, don't just take things at face value.
Do your own research. Think critically.
All right, so until next time, everyone, stay curious, stay informed.
And happy diving.
Happy diving.